Defined scope is the third of 6 processes in the scope knowledge area. It follows collect requirements and proceeds create work breakdown structure. Defined scope creates primarily a project scope statement. It also updates an assumption log, which we'll talk more about. But what we're doing here is we're taking the high-level scope that's identified in the charter and what we've got for requirements so far, and we're utilizing the scope management plan to give us guidance on how to take that high-level scope from the charter and the requirements documentation and turn it into a narrative description, aka a scope statement. So instead of must, should, could, would type things that we would see with requirements, a scope statement is going to be more a narrative description, deliverables listed or identified, etc. Now, we can use expert judgment, we can use alternative analysis, meaning there might be more than one way to accomplish the desired requirement or scope. But with that scope statement, we're also going to focus not just on what we're doing, but what we're not doing. So that's an exclusion or exclusions. So where the requirements are more, this is what needs to be done, the scope statement can also include what are we not doing. So there's a very clear border and boundary between what's in and what's out. And then also the assumption log is going to be updated, like I said. So the assumption log was originally created with the develop project charter process. Now we are updating it with any valid assumptions as we get deeper into planning, because assumptions are kind of like stakes in the ground. You know, they kind of help the project take shape, if you will, kind of like trying to put a tent up, if you will. Those stakes help keep that tent they help it take shape, if you will. And so each of those assumptions are kind of like a stake in the ground, if you will. And as we go through the project, we build certainty and we eliminate uncertainty. So as we go through the project, the assumptions should start to drop off. Should. And so that's the basics of how this works. Now the process that follows this is create work breakdown structure. So the scope statement, which is an output of this, is part of the scope baseline, which is actually an output of the next process called create WBS.